Is it running?
It's running now.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, it's the whole editing thing. Do you edit much?
Oh, well, when I'm making a video, and yeah, for sure, definitely, there's a lot of editing in there. I mean, the AI does make it easier in terms of like, I have a software which is like, tell me the 3 seconds that
So
are,
it's,
I make
Right.
a film for a minute.
It
Tell
is
me the 3
something
seconds that are
where
most interesting
does-
visually in this
well, you know,
minute.
like with that
and if I have, 4
grading
clips that are a
policy,
minute
I
long,
was looking around at
I can now put
people
together
whose
a,
kids were
a
either
15
almost
second
graduated
video
or
Right.
really
had
fast
graduated.
with that.
And
But
it's
I
like,
still, there's still a
You
lot of
see,
human.
Right.
You had the
There is.
benefit of
Everybody, this is
raising your kids
episode
under
2,
under
season
the
2, My
zero.
Side of the Fence. Right. I am
under
here
the threat of
with
the zero. And,
both candidate and
here I am
member
saying,
Yes.
and
of a school board, Sarah
elected,
Russia.
not
Yes,
my
I
first
would
time
hope
being
not
both of
just
those
because
That's
things.
exactly right.
As
So
an
we're
exciting
talking
new
a-
big,
we're talking a little
as
bit
a big
about
piece of it. As a
like,
pretty big piece of it was, to get rid of this.
social media
and
posting,
look at people
podcasting,
whose
stuff
lives
like
this
that.
doesn't impact
If
at
you don't
all,
follow
saying,
Sarah
keep
on
this.
socials, you should.
And it is
She does a
repealed now. It is
fantastic job
replaced
of
with a
editing
policy
those
that
things
delegates it
with
to the
those little kids.
superintendent,
I
so
don't
we
know
do not have
how
our
you
grading
do it.
policy.
Well, it's funny
Because
because
my
next
kids,
school year, but
they
we
know. Like my son will
unanimously
take out my
agree
little
to,
tripod, and he will
repeal it. And
Oh,
pull
he'll
back
hit it
and
on the
he will
ground.
do it. Like he knows how to do,
Sometimes
and
it's
he'll be like, video.
Is.
He'll grab my little remote and he'll turn, he'll
Right.
turn it on.
Vote it
In
on
fact,
the
he'll get upset
board.
if I do not let him.
Period.
Period.
thing.
So this is going.
Yeah,
back
we
to
actually
this
have,
purpose, and
for
it's
the
going back
podcast, so
to
we have
what
2
actually
podcasts.
how most
We
school
have
boards
My Side of the
handle this,
Fence, which was
because
previously
it should be
audio
something
only.
that can be
And then-
adjusted.
Yeah, you were on it
doesn't
twice.
have to go through a
And then we
political
have the Matrix Company
makes it
harder.
process.
And we
It-
actually
we
have
vote
a
and all this
student
good
from
stuff.
Osborne
So,
who edits
I was
that.
glad to see that. And
That
I'm
we
eager to
got
see what's going to
from-
happen next. I don't know what's going to
What's in
happen.
that
None of us
program?
know what's going to happen next. It is in the administration's court,
Eric,
but I had,
yeah.
our CTE.
I'm
But for
related
me,
to
it was
him.
like,
No,
well,
his name.
either it's this thing I hate, or or it's going to be something different. So
Right.
I
He
think
would.
I feel good about something
would.
different. And also,
Um,
when I look,
we've had-
Fairfax was a big inspiration.
We
for
haven't
our
sent out a
preview
lot
for the
of
policy. I didn't
invites
like
for
Fairfax
season
since we
2
introduced the
podcast.
zero. Loudon
Just
has
because
it back.
we've had,
This
we've
kind of policy
done
is
all
just
this.
on the retreat in
Yeah, you
general,
built it.
so-
Yeah,
should be.
like
If
it
you
doesn't.
build it, the people will come.
Yeah,
That's good.
like it doesn't look like much, but
so I am
so much
yeah, so
work
that was
goes
it's
into-
it's a lot that goes. I mean, I know I'm a
to make,
I'm a
and we'll see
new
what
media
actually-
personality
Yeah.
as well.
We'll
Like
see what
it's-
actually
it happens. I'm sure I'm
it's
not gonna. I'm
more
sure it's not.
than
I'm not designing
you
it.
realize, and
so I'm
actually
sure
if you
it's
look
not
at the
gonna be
timestamps of a lot
what
of
exactly
videos and a lot
Well,
of reels
I
and
would
stuff
want.
like that,
But
you'll
at least
notice
maybe
they're
you
like
get
one
some of
AM.
what you're.
Yeah,
Right, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
I
it's going
believe
to be
it.
better than what it was
And I have,
before.
I've, you know, I've got to
so-
put my
and
kids
this
to
is-
bed, and
I
you have
try
to
actually
post
do
them pretty
things. I actually try
contemporaneously to
solve
whatever it is
problems.
you're
Like,
doing. Like
I
I did
actually-
make a video,
I
or
do,
I recorded
you know,
video
like with
for
this
the joint
special
meeting
education audit.
that
Right.
we had.
This
with
is a
the
problem.
city
I'm going to raise my
council
hand.
a
Okay,
few
how
weeks
can we
ago
solve this
now, and it
problem?
just
It
another
just
thing I
didn't
did
get up,
recently.
and
I'm like,
and the board
you know,
unanimously
I mean, I still put up my
supported
static
it,
posts, like
so I
with
was
the
happy to
photos
see
and
that.
Right,
and-
right.
But
Did
that's
John
fine.
do it?
policy
And
committee
yeah,
over
and
the
that
first
and
10
that did
to 4
fine.
years,
And
and
my
there's a
summary
cycle
of the
that our
meeting got
policies
out
are
there,
all
but
reviewed
you
on,
do have
and
on social
I'm
media,
looking
you
through
have
these
your video
updates,
people,
and there are
and
things
you
in
have
there,
your
like
annual
reading
people.
as a
Oh, yeah.
policy,
And
the
they are
board
different
shall receive an
people.
annual
Like they are
update on field
different.
trips.
You know, the video
Well, I've been on the
people,
board
they
for
go
4 years
in
Never got
to
it.
their
and I've
social
not
media
forgotten
apps, and
it.
all they see
And
are
so it's like,
videos.
okay,
Let's
and
pull this out. But conversely, you
and
have
we need to
people
dis-
who
'cause sometimes these
prefer
things
to
are
read
required
or
by
see
statute.
static
Sure,
photos,
yeah.
Sometimes
and
the
they don't
State
really
House
see
says
videos, and the
Right.
algorithm
these
has
are
figured
things,
out
but
that we
these
need
are
to
2 separate
get to the
people.
bottom of
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
well, and
figure out
it's. I mean,
if we
outside
need
of social
to
media,
either
for
start doing
podcasts,
this.
you definitely have your video people and your audio
Or
people.
if we do
And you
not
ask
have
your
to
audio
do it,
people,
we
like,
have to
would you be
decide if we
interested in a
want it.
video option? They're like,
And
I don't need that
go
crap.
from there.
No, I know. Well, and that's
Our
actually this is
policies
I thought it was so
that
funny that
say
you did
something
move
that we're not
into
actually
video,
doing.
you know,
Like
a
that
video
undermines
podcast
our-
world because
That's bad.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
bad.
a tension
We
in the
can't-
podcast
yeah,
world
that-
right
that's
now
bad
where
from just
Right.
governance,
podcasting
administrative trust
is its
no
origin
angle in
is an
which it's
audio
good.
medium,
And
and
there
oh,
were
thank
just
goodness
like
I
half a
do
dozen
these
of
long
these, just in a
drives.
single
and I finally
meeting.
my
Right.
first
really
time
engrossing
sitting on
and
the policy
engaging
committee,
being
listen
like,
to,
oh my God, this-
and
this is
now
the
you're
only
going to take
things
my
I actually
favorite
see or
audio
know about
format
are the
and you're
things
going to
that
make it
I have
visual, and now
insight
this is
into. So I
totally
know the
different. This
school
doesn't
board
fit into my
has
life
not
while
done
I make
Sure.
dinner, or it
a
doesn't
field
fit into my my life while I
in the field
have a
of
long
report,
drive.
which
And
I want to be clear, I'm not
Yeah,
casting
Well,
aspersions on our
especially when you get,
superintendent
like
or anything.
for
At
my
one
side of the
point, he was
fence,
new,
it's not
and
as big a deal. Like
nobody-
we don't have a
well,
producer
probably told
over
him
there,
that we
and
need an
Sarah and I
annual,
are
you know,
not
like
looking
so
at like
it's
video
a,
clips
this
or
is
something.
it's natural.
Like,
that things
you'll
happen.
see that
It
like
happens,
on
Right.
the big,
time,
top 3 or 4,
time
well,
passes.
top 100
You know,
probably.
boards change out. Whatever
Podcasts
board
like on
voted
YouTube.
on
Their
annual
audio,
field trip
there's an
reports
audio-only
is
version,
not there anymore.
but it's pretty
And
clear. They're like,
do the
oh,
people
pull
who
up that
voted on it
clip of
remember
blah, blah, blah,
necessarily
blah,
what
and
they
I'm
did,
just
Why
like,
they
I
did
can't
it.
or
see the
why they
clip,
did
but all
it.
right,
So
whatever.
it's you just have
It
to
doesn't
revisit these
really
things.
hurt my feelings.
And so, you know,
Stripping
I
the
have
audio
insight
from the video
into
is
those
dead
kinds of
simple.
things, but I
So
don't have
I
insight
still put out
into,
my side of the fence,
you know,
audio
does
only.
every single
but we've
you
started
know, if
doing
we have a policy
the
saying
video
something
stuff
like,
too.
you know, every
I'll be interested to see
teacher
how
gets
it
evolves,
you know,
and
however
doing
many
your
observations
audience
a year.
I
that
do
goes into
suspect
their
you're going to
annual
have that your
evaluation.
audio is
I
going
have
to
no idea.
remain as a board member, and I'm no way
Popular,
yeah,
yeah.
the more
Right.
popular
And
other school divisions
so
have
I don't
it is
really
very
know.
interesting to see
or
internal
for
audit
my
offices
back-
where they
yeah,
just
on
like
my
rotate
social
through
media to see
schools,
what-
or they rotate
you know,
through departments,
what
and they do
performs
it
well.
every,
Like
it's
at
the
first
first
my
my
static
posts.
Right.
Okay, are you
These are all the policies that apply to you, or are you complying? But now I have more of a video audience, and so now those videos are starting
Video-
to inform my
either
static
fixed at
posts
the department
and
level
it's,
or building level, or
interesting to see
generate
that
recommendations to the school board.
evolve.
Like, you know,
My experience,
sometimes
my
lived it.
Some of those things get
limited
left behind
experience
because
is that
those
the
policies
video stuff just gets
that you're not
way
complying
more
with, well,
traffic
for
for
maybe
me.
not require
You know, I can put up,
person.
like I put up a
Right,
picture
no, that's-
of
just
a
got
piece of
defunded,
tape.
and you know here
Someone
you are
had
4 or
stuck
5 years
Right, I
later.
mean, it just
a
happens. Like,
swinging
you know, someone
gate
retired
and down in Colonial Beach,
Right.
and
just
they had
took
written on
savings.
it. It was
Right,
orange tape.
yeah,
They had written on it,
and what
emergency
they were doing,
exit.
or
I
they
mean,
were,
I
say,
was
you know,
like,
the person who
if
retired, they
you
were
tried
doing
something like
and
that
let's say
in
they were in a
Nova,
position to
like
train
the
their
city or the county or whatever,
So
you'd
the
get a
replacement
complaint,
doesn't know
you'd
why
get
they
a
were
Yeah,
piece of
that's
paper
right.
doing
They
something,
would
so,
put you in
right,
jail.
Right, yeah.
But down there, it's just sort of like,
but you don't
well,
realize
I
that
get
there
it,
was
man. You didn't want to
you know, at
actually
some point
fix
a
the
reason
gate,
for
which is
it,
what
and
you didn't
so
see in that picture.
I
The gate's
suggested to the
set.
school board that we need a
So
policy audit. So
that
we
stuff
should, you
that
know,
I
go
think
through
is
and
way
see,
funnier
okay,
than
our policy
some of the
says,
videos,
you know,
like
this
the
is
last
the
video I
number
did of the beach.
observations,
The
or
river
this
was
is the number
super
of
angry. It was
evaluations
really
our
windy,
employees are
and I
getting.
just
Are they actually
panned my phone,
Yeah,
but
are we-
hit
Does
stop,
the state
called it a
audit
day,
those
and
policies
posted
at
it.
all?
I mean, the
Crushed.
state audits,
Crushed.
it's, you know, like the
I
General
don't-
Assembly.
yeah,
goes
no,
through
and
they pass
I don't know. I don't want
all
to,
of
you know, I
the
don't want to give
statutes
away
that
all of my
apply
secrets
to
Right.
here in a
education, but
in a
in
public,
terms
you
of,
know, especially
and
now.
we do have to.
I'll come back
present to
on
them as
after
part of the
November 3rd, and we can
accreditation
Right,
talk
process.
more
right.
about my,
You know,
my
do we
video
have,
secrets. But
policies
it
that
is
conform with the state
interesting,
guidelines, for example, on
what gets
retention,
people's
you know, holding
attention,
kids
what
back.
It is.
Sustains people's
People are trying to
attention,
talk to the school board about
and
that all the time. Like,
how
why don't you hold
you-
more kids
you
back?
do
It's
have
like,
to
well,
think
actually, the Virginia Department of
differently
Education sets those
about
guidelines.
Oh, is that right?
those-
The Virginia
you know, how
Department
you
of
grab
Education
someone's
does
attention
come
in a
through,
written
and
format versus how
that's
you
part
grab
of when you
someone's
hear a
attention in
school
video
is fully
format
accredited or not fully
and
accredited.
and I have
Wait,
many ways that I
not
communicate
accredited.
with people. Like
Yeah,
I
well,
have
from
my
a policy
newsletter
Isn't
as well, and that's like
What's the other?
that's like my advanced
So
placement.
the-
There's
piece, right? That's
accreditation
the
and
longest thing.
and then
that's
Those are the people that want to read.
Those are
That's
you
fine.
are really you're
So
sitting
it's
down for a
accreditation,
good
accountability,
long
they're two
read
separate things
to
now.
do
Right.
that.
So
And I
policy
get
would be
it's and it's very
Yes,
popular.
and so
you know,
policies
I
are
get a lot of engagement
accreditation.
through
And
that,
so
and
the
I get
state does come through, and
a lot
they
of
do
people
these,
Oh, do they?
who mention it to me, or
in order to
sign
become
up
fully
organically because
accredited,
people
we
will
have to
forward it or
demonstrate
whatever. So that works
compliance
very
with,
well.
you know,
Then
Right.
the
Sure,
you know,
sure.
the photo
you know,
posts with
regulations, and
longer
requirements.
summaries.
So there is that that's in
you know
there.
that. So we're
But
talking about
something
like
like
long attention
annual
span,
field
medium
trip
attention
Right,
span,
right.
and then
Or
video.
annual
Video is like
fundraising
Right.
I have
reports, like
20
from
seconds.
That's exactly right.
to explain.
that is also
Old
a
Dean
policy
to you,
that-
right? Like that's ah!
It's like those
Well, you
kind
know,
of things.
it's
don't
interesting
get
because
VDOE,
when I was involved in politics,
Right.
there wasn't so much
Fine.
social media. I mean, it
So I want to
existed,
go back, but
away
really much
from
of a
the
thing.
education
And people-
nerd
Blogs were a
stuff
thing.
and go back to
yes, you have
the-
one of those.
well, I haven't written for years.
All right,
Um, I still
The-
write, but
the
I don't
campaign
post.
stuff. What do you
I
hear
just-
most when you're not on
When
it?
I write, it's
I mean,
to help
people,
me. dope
Other than
things
city
out.
problems?
To make sure
the
that,
most
like, what
is
I'm
city
thinking
problems. The most is
actually
people who want to
jive
talk to me
with
about their parking or
what's
about their
You know, it's funny you
utility
say that
bill,
because
or
that's the
Right.
same thing with my.
I'm always
It's actually very helpful
but
for me to
very
have
sorry to inform
like
them.
for myself as an office holder.
The most
If I
can't
can't
explain it in
I
my
hear is,
newsletter.
well, I don't have
if I
kids.
cannot write it out, that's the most common. Or if I cannot
phrase that I hear,
summarize this
and my
quickly
most common
in a,
retort to
you
that
know,
is
in
like,
a
well, you still have a
longer
vote,
social
don't
media
you?
post, and
You do.
then,
Yeah.
and
What
people
then I
are
need
like,
to
well,
stop,
yeah, I
then I
do
need
have
to
a vote, and
take a
so,
pause and I need to think through it a little bit
sometimes
more
people are
because
like,
I need
I don't,
to be able to explain
I don't have
it
kids,
and I do go
and
through
I don't vote
trouble,
for school board, and I'm
and
not
not
every
every
goodbye. Sometimes that
most
happens.
elected
That's not the most
here
common.
as a
Wow.
city.
That's not the most common response, but it does happen. Most of
where
them do
people
some
are like-
version
Brutal.
of this. I think I'm the only one who does all of this.
I mean, you're pretty much, one
board's a
stop
funny
shop for all media.
Because it's people are like,
So,
well,
I
I don't have
uh,
kids, so it doesn't
but it
it does.
matter.
It
And
does
I'm
help
well,
me
there's plenty of
stop and
people
be
who
like,
don't have
okay,
students.
so.
Well,
what is
and the other thing is,
video?
the
I
thing
have
that you'll
to get
see,
this.
especially on social
I'm
media,
trying to
because
make
it's
a
easy
video
to
for
do,
this
right?
whole meeting.
What you'll see
and we
there
covered
is,
4
well,
topics,
I
and
don't
what is
have
the
any
one
children in the
sentence
system, so I don't feel like
takeaway
I should be paying taxes
bullet point
to
that I can
educate
put
other
on your
people's kids.
phone screen
And what
for
I always
no
want
more
to
than
reply
3
to them is,
seconds.
who do you think
what we
educated
talked
you?
about and
If
what
somebody did,
Yeah.
this is
Someone
a
paid
really,
for it.
it really
This is a
forces
group
me
project.
to.
Yes,
This is
it's
a
a
group
group
project. It
project.
really, it's actually
So
helpful.
I don't hear that
If
so
you can
much.
reduce
I
stuff to
hear-
writing,
yeah,
it means you
I see it on
and it's
Facebook.
coherent.
Right.
I don't understand it.
I hear I
Then
don't
you
have
can
kids,
communicate it.
so I don't
You know,
know.
I see this
so
down
I'm
in Colonial
skeptical of
Beach.
you. I don't
There's
think that I don't know.
there's
that I care.
they have a town
I usually
council
get
and a
those people
mayor,
who care and vote for
and
me.
really there's only
but
1 or 2 people on the
the-
town council
if people
who
do have an
bother
opinion on the
much
schools,
trying to
it's usually negative.
communicate through
Yeah.
social
You
media.
know, it's just like
And
the
it's
schools are
usually like
bad and,
newsletters that they just post.
I don't,
But
and I don't like that
down
they're bad,
there,
right? I don't like. Yeah,
I mean,
and that's the
that's
voters speaking.
considered
That's not Sarah's
relatively,
speaking, that's the voters
you
speaking.
know,
and so it's like, well,
aggressive
I'm not
to,
I'm not
to
going to
try and
be the school
communicate
board
in
member
such a
who
way.
denies
And
that
it literally
we
is
have a lot
just
of work to
them.
do, right?
They have a
We a
PDF
lot of work to
of
do.
their
That's-
newsletter, and it's usually one
That
page,
is,
and they just
there's
post it
no
up to
ifs,
their
ands, or
Facebook,
buts
you know,
around it, and you can't,
for Colonial Beach.
like I was
page.
saying.
Right.
So,
one of the last times
and,
I
you
was
know,
here,
they're
you know,
20
it's like
years
the personal
ish,
trainer. I'm going to fire the
20 odd
personal
years
trainer who
behind
tells
us.
me,
Sure.
"Ah, you're done
Well,
for
that's
the day."
different
The
Right.
personal
institutions
trainer
have
I want
different
is the personal
norms.
trainer.
I
who
mean,
says, give me 5
people-
more reps. I know you can do it.
Yeah.
I have
It's going to be
gotten
hard, but I know
most
you
of,
can do
most
it.
of my
You need to
feedback
do
is
meet
very
your goals.
positive on,
Yeah.
Right.
on the
You're-
feedback
that's
for
the
that.
kind
Most
of
people are very
person
happy to
that
see the
you
newsletter. Most people
want,
are very happy to see the videos.
in that
Most people are
role.
very
And
happy
so
to see the
that's the kind of person
frequency
that
of
I
my
try to
posts.
be
But there are
on the
definitely
school
some people
board,
who are
and
not.
it's not a.
So when I started writing my blog,
Sometimes
there was
people misunderstand
an inquiry
either
from one of my
innocently
fellow
or
elected people
by design
of the city
my
attorney
tone or
as to whether or
intent
not
behind some of
the
my,
city could shut it
inquiries,
down.
But
Oh,
it
yeah,
is
that-
a.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite that overt
I
in my
wouldn't do
case,
anything
but
to assert
yeah,
the
it was
system that I'm
it was
investing
a there's definitely
Yeah.
been some historically
16
some
years in,
tension.
so-
Well, and the most valuable things in
and
your life.
when it was
Yeah.
new.
Children.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was
Oh
new.
my
It was
God!
new to
Oh
the
my
school
God!
board, I
My
believe.
kids
Like,
give
I
me
don't
such
know,
a.
you
They're
know,
so
and I was
funny.
not here for a very,
we
very
ran
long
into
time.
we ran into
before I
Hell
got
Power
parish at the
School
grocery
Board, but
store
I was not
today
aware of
and got my
anything
kids
else
into
quite
it.
like
Yeah.
that.
No.
The schools
Like,
itself
"Do you
don't
help
put
your
out
mom
a
with
newsletter,
school
although that
board?"
soon is going to be
And my
changing.
kids were like,
So
"No,
it
it's
was
boring."
kind of like, wait a second.
My
Right.
daughter
What
wouldn't be
is
involved
this?
with. She when
because
I was
it
I had a
had started
project
as
that
a
I did
political
called
list,
Manassas
right? Because
Next,
you started
which
with candidates.
did a
I
number of
started
things.
with
Didn't really
candidates,
matter.
so
Right. I
how
got
can we stay
my
in touch
daughter
with
to
the
help me
campaign? You want
shoot
to know what I'm running
a
on
video,
and all
right,
that kind of
right,
stuff. That's
part
how
of
the
it.
list started.
And then you got
And
elected.
then I'm
down,
elected,
I
and so
did
now the
that.
list is
But
informational.
after that, right?
And
yeah,
so
I don't think she
and
might
I think
have
a lot of
attended
people, yeah, there's
my
people, a
first
lot of people
swearing
have
in,
political.
but after
you know, I've
that,
gotten
she was
emails
checked
from
out.
people
And
running for
when I got
local
when I got
office,
out of
and
office,
my
she
yard
was
signs are
maybe
in
a
or whatever.
teenager.
Like that wasn't really
And
breaking
I had
new
a
territory.
retirement
What
ceremony.
new
No, I was
territory
like, "Are you
was.
coming? Are you interested in
Oh,
this?"
and now I'm
she's
going
like,
to be telling
"No."
you pretty much in detail what we discussed.
Yeah, it's just like
and
I wouldn't be
who's-
doing it if it weren't for you guys.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
wouldn't
the
be doing it at all
and
if it
who
weren't for
voted
you.
how. And
But it's
I mean, especially
so
since we
yeah,
don't have a
so
local
people
paper.
who have
There's no
so
other way. I
so
mean,
hear
short
that
of
from
attending all
voters,
those meetings,
yeah,
and
yeah, I don't
that
like
can be
the
tough,
schools
but
don't perform as well as they could. Now there is
there's
good
no
news in
other
our
way to
school
find
system. A lot
out
of people
except
are not aware
for,
of that good news.
you know,
Weems, for example,
secondhand,
was the number
and
one
that
school in
is
all of
of
Northern Virginia
various
for improved
accuracy.
reading.
Well, and
Got
it's-
a write-up
it
in the
is-
Washington Post
it
about
does.
Saw that.
Yes.
And
The
the principal was
tension that has
invited
kinda
down
come
to
up
the
with
Virginia
this
Association of State
over the past,
Superintendents to give a
even
presentation
somewhat
about
recently
has
you know,
been like, listen,
what's going on in
this
that
is
school.
Sarah's newsletter.
I started as soon
Right.
as that nobody
came out, I
else
started
Right,
spending more
right.
time
It
around
is
that
Sarah's
school, like,
newsletter.
you know,
So
going
if
to
Sarah
events and
says
things
Right,
like that.
right.
part of the
That's
reason
what
I
I
and supported
it is
the
a
purchase of
school
8700
community that
Centerville
is
was
really
because of the alternative
gelling.
school.
You know,
Maybe that
where-
wasn't
where
your
there's a
reason,
lot that-
but it was
that
mine,
really
and it's
exciting
going to go
things
into
that
the
are
newsletter.
That's great.
The morale is
And
good. We don't
if
get
you
emails
want
out
one,
of
Weems Elementary
you know,
School,
you could
I can always always,
do it.
I have to
or
kind of affirmatively
if the division wanted
decide
one,
Yeah.
the division
to,
could go ahead and do
Yeah.
that. And
check
I'm
in
supportive
on
of the
places where I'm
division,
not
too. For
getting
the record, I'm
emails.
supportive of because like okay,
More
I'm
is
getting
better.
emails, so I know
out
what's
there.
going on with you.
But because
what's
for a
Happy
long
people
time
don't
I've
email.
occupied
where happy
this
people don't email.
space
I'm
kind
not
of on
hearing
my own.
anything.
It's
You know,
just
I
like,
don't
oh,
get
Sarah's
emails
news
out
is
of
a
school,
queen,
so
so
let me
that's
go to
not
it. Let me
true.
see what's
Right.
going on. And there's a disclaimer at the bottom
there's
of
school
stuff. This is
community
not
that's
school's
really
news.
coming
This is Sarah's
together in
news.
a really positive
So
way.
You know, well, the
And
city
they're-
attorney did
they're
prevail
doing it
upon me
despite
to
being
put
a
a footer on it, said
yeah,
like, this
I
is
would
not
hate to
City
say
of
it kind
Manassas
of that way, but
official.
it's happening
Right. Yeah.
despite the fact that not
So,
everybody speaks
tell
the
us
same
about,
language, like
Sure.
in a literal sense.
So the new
But
dean, I was
their
over there on
PTO,
the pickleball courts the other
events
day,
and their PTO
and they
meetings
need
are
one
fully
of those.
translated,
They
right?
need to
Here
put
they
that
have
plastic
somebody in
sheeting
there
stuff
doing
on
that
the
too, and
fences to
people
block
come.
the wind.
people
like
come
they do on some of
and
the tennis.
they,
Good for them. But pickleball
That's what it
court's
takes,
fabulous.
though.
right.
And it looks like that school's
And
getting pretty
I'm
close.
Going back
Yes,
to
the
Baldwin,
school-
we
it's
gotta
on
start
track, it's
translating
on
our
time.
PhD
Is it
on
going to be
budget.
open for the fall?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Even
Kids are going to go, but it's
kids are going to go to school there.
really
we
been,
have started now
the
the
so
process
you
of
see a lot
actually-
of really good things happening
Now that
there.
we're in July,
You know,
I believe the
Baldwin's
process of moving has
scores
actually
are
officially
approaching. They're not there,
Damn.
but they're starting to approach the state
That's
average
fantastic.
in a
I
lot
know.
of categories.
Yes,
and so
like,
that's exciting.
it was a
Hayden's,
very
scores.
I mean,
and
and
I'm not talking about the last one,
whatever
but
this
the only
is.
data.
Yeah, some sort of thing.
Is this wood?
Yeah, that's
I'll
wood.
find some.
I sanded that. That's actual wood.
Okay, that's
Actual
actual
wood.
wood. All right, so
Released
knock on wood that
2
this
years
has
ago.
been
Hayden
improved in every
project. It is
category.
Seems
It's
like it.
6 points
On time, on
and that's
budget.
exciting.
That's
on
good.
track.
Osborne
You
was
know,
judged
it's not
on
in the
track,
news because
which was
Going
under
okay.
the new
Is it going
accountability
okay? And the
system
kids will
judged
be
on
in
track,
there.
which was under the
You know, on the first day of
previous
school, August 12th, which, by
system
the way,
where
anyone who's
accreditation
keeping
and
track,
accountability
we are
were
halfway through
combined.
summer break
Right.
as
It
of
was
tomorrow.
not. It didn't get a. You know, it was not
Well,
really
so-
counting.
under
So
that
what's
old
the
system.
what's
So,
the
like,
deal with
that's
the
an
old
improvement.
school?
What's the deal with the
So
old
a lot
school?
of people
Well,
don't
the
know
old school is,
as you know, that there
Old
is
school.
it's an
some
old school.
Yeah.
positive momentum.
It has a,
Well,
a
and the
level
other
of
problem is
historic
you're not really
interest
going to be
in
able
it
to tell
that
that
our other
story for another
schools
year because
don't
of
really
the change
have.
in systems.
And
you don't have
so
much to compare it
myself
to.
personally,
Well,
this is
yeah,
just
but
Sarah
we can.
talking,
But it's
right? I
also
do
at
feel
Os
like
in
we
Osborne's
owe it
case, you know, algebra
to
improved by 10 points.
our community.
Right.
That's a double-digit
especially
improvement
to our
in a single
community
year.
who
That's
is
great.
I'll take
invested
it.
in the
I'll
school,
take it.
in
Yeah,
the-
I will take that.
that
Okay.
we
Turn every
and I want to
corner.
say
Like, we
turn over every rock in
Yeah,
terms
yeah, I
of
think
what
that's
are
true of
all of
every
our
school.
options and how much do
You
each
know,
of them cost. and
Round Elementary
all that
School,
kind
if
of
you're on
stuff. There's
social
no
media,
predetermined
you probably
outcome
saw a lot of
for
posting about
that
Round. They had a really tough year 2 years ago.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
people go.
They had a really
Sometimes
tough year
people
2 years
suspect
ago.
that
They have a
elected
new
bodies
principal.
go
They had a
through
new
a
they
process
have a new
that is
principal.
cosmetic and
She was
usually
new
there's
last
a
school year.
conclusion
I'm
predetermined.
She came in with
familiar
a
with
job
it.
to do,
Predetermined
and
at
some
the
that
end
is
of it,
very uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable.
For me,
Sure.
and
that's the only person I can
work
speak
on
to do
behalf
that,
of.
but
There
work
is
needs to
no
be done.
predetermined
So
outcome for me. Like
that
if it makes
so there's
some
and we do have some
things
that are
space
happening
needs
in
the
Round,
division.
but I'm hoping
the
to see
alternative
positive,
school pathways is
Yeah.
part of the
I don't know what I'm
community
gonna see
center
about
that
our
is
last school
coming
year.
down in a few
I'm
years,
hoping to see
in the next 4
positive
years. Although we
movement
can
out of
stay there,
you know,
for the
Metz
next
is
school
a-
year if
Right.
we need to. So that's good.
I'm convinced
So
there's
we
no
do
good
have
middle school.
some-
Just
well,
nowhere.
That's middle
It's a
school.
tough
It's
spot.
very tough.
Needs
It's very
robotics
tough.
is another
It's
one
so
that I
hard.
mentioned.
But
You know,
a
we
lot
don't have
has
dedicated
improved at
indoor
Metz
practice facilities that are the correct
the building's
size
more
for them,
orderly.
so they have to
literally
basically,
they
if
got
wanna
new
practice,
lights, and
they
it's a
assemble
new
school
part
in
of
there.
the
New lights, new
little
floors,
obstacle
new
course
paint.
that
It's
they have
a
to
brighter.
It
But they
feels
can't ever
less.
have the
When I
full
first went
end of that
Institutional,
course.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels much better.
And there are
in
other
there.
school divisions
The
where they
security
assemble that
has
obstacle
gotten
course
much
and it
better
stays
in
up. Like our
there.
robotics team, they
The
have to
mood
spend
has
their
gotten
time
much better in
Well, that's
assembling
good.
this little
That's all
part and
important.
taking it
Yeah,
down.
I need to see that
Yeah.
in scores,
every-
right?
and
That's what
use
is
every part of their
that's,
practice.
You know,
But again,
do that.
that's
At the
not
end
an
of the day,
overnight
that's
thing
what it
either.
is.
Yeah.
But you cannot
Ideally,
have
you
good
wanna see
scores in a
them
disorderly
not
school,
do
and
that.
at least
So,
now I feel
okay,
confident
let's
that the school
see
has become
Yeah.
what
a
we
lot
might
more
be able to
orderly.
I
make.
mean, that
so
seems
I'm
pretty low
excited to
intensity.
see,
You know,
what we
it's
can
not
do
1,000
there,
kids
because
in
I
the
know
building.
our students
It's
aren't achieving their
a
potential.
handful.
Like, that's not
that
their
big empty
maximum
space.
potential.
Right,
Right.
and I know it
Right.
because when I look at their
It's
scores in
complicated.
sixth grade,
Yeah.
we do
Right.
run
Right.
into
Right.
little,
Yeah.
we do run
There's
into
a
little
theme
that are
here.
these
Yeah.
Yeah,
blocks
so we
that
can
that are coming
so
up that
is-
seem
so
to be
there's
coming up, and that
there's
seems
reason
to-
for hope in
there
all
seems
of
to be
it.
a new one every
It's
day.
not-
You know,
we might get to
it's
not a
point where the
matter.
best
It's not
or
hopeless.
slash
So I'm
Right.
trying to when I'm
option
talking
is
with somebody at the doors. It's like listen, there
decommissioning
is
the building.
you know, if you want to
and,
vote for somebody,
now
who's
there
not
is
afraid
also
of
complicating
of
this whole thing is
vote for me.
Vote for
if
me,
you
right.
want
Most
to vote
of
for
the
somebody who is
current,
willing
you know,
to
mostly
raise
old
her
team
hand and be
was
that
built in
annoying
1959.
44
There was a
question girl
1990
about
Right.
ish edition
and the
wing
meeting where I had 44
that was
questions
also added on at
about
some point.
our
But what people
continuous
don't
improvement
realize
plans for
is
our
that
schools. So it's just like, look,
the
this is
1959
really
or maybe it was
important. So I'm going to
1960.
make
No, it
sure
is.
'cause
that I
Bookmarks still are.
understand
They were on
and that
your
the public
part, so I always
understands
mix them up.
But because this is also something
You know,
that drives me
1959,
kind of nuts about
60-ish
school board
building
meetings in general
was actually
is
built
that there's
around
a lot of acronyms and
an
there's a lot
older
of jargon
and this is a
structure.
public-facing
A smaller, older
video.
structure from
This
the
is
40s
public-facing,
that
so
actually
sometimes
does
I'll
meet
ask a question
the
and then I'll
criteria
hear back,
for the
"Oh, I
National
can't believe she
Registry of
didn't
Historic
know what
Places
such
and
and
such
it's
meant.
just like I know
The
what that
significance
means.
in the
Right.
history of
It's not
black
about
education.
me. It's
Right,
about I'm
about
trying
them.
to. I noticed in the presentation
and it does have
that this
some
acronym was not
architecturally
defined.
distinct
So let's
features.
Yeah, let's
can you define that
Within it,
acronym
like the
for
way
me?
that,
Okay, so
Yeah.
somebody who
like
was
inlaid
watching at
bookshelves,
home,
and it was a
might be
it was a
able to follow
vocational
along.
shop.
And
area
it's,
that was subdivided
so
into
so if you want
classrooms,
to
like
vote
within
for somebody who
1959,
is the
60,
squeaky wheel of the
part of
school,
the
I'm your
building was
squeakiest
built.
wheel.
But in theory, that could be
It's me, it's
rehabilitated
I.
to
If you
be
want to
like
vote for
what
somebody
it
who's in it
looked
for the
like
long
in the
haul and
40s.
in it for
Right.
the right reasons, it is
Right.
me, it is I.
So that
like,
part
this
is like, okay.
whatever happens in November.
You
and
know,
I
you
very
don't
well
want
might
to
be washed out
you
sea
don't want to
because,
just bring the bulldozers
people
in
wanna
and not think very
send a
carefully
message to someone who doesn't
about
know
that.
who I am.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean,
that
still
very well
more
might happen,
estimates
but
that are
there's
coming.
It's the
you know,
way
there's
electoral
still more,
politics,
there's
you know,
still
kinda works.
this is
Good,
still
bad,
very
and
much
different.
in the middle of
The,
it, but we know more now.
NASA
you know,
seems like they're
back when this process started,
electing
when
ever
it
more,
was decided that
blue people.
old dean was going to get a new dean, right?
And that, but
back in
the
2017, whenever that
citizens,
report was
I would say,
generated,
are at least most.
there, we had not
consistent in
done
this.
this historical study, and actually the city
And
did.
you know,
the
it's a
historical
sea
study.
change
So
in
we
politics from
no one was
10
aware
years
of
ago.
this
But
1940s
you know, we've
section.
we had
So it's
Jackson
like,
Miller,
okay,
who
well
was
now
our
we know
delegate.
about that, so now
The
we
next
have
delegate
to
is a
treat
Democrat
this whole
socialist.
thing a
You
lot
know,
more
you get
carefully.
Jackson, who's over here, and then Lee
because
Carter, who's
buildings-
like over here.
I
It's
like
just-
the way
it's
Mark
on-
Wolf said it at our
on a
joint
local
meeting. It's not a
level, it's really
Lego set.
jarring.
You know, you can't
Like,
just like cut it off and be like,
I
okay, we're
come
going to
from-
demolish
I
this
was-
part,
I was raised
and we're
in
going to just put a
one-party
door here, and
states.
we're going to
You know,
expect
I
this
grew up
part
in
to
Illinois.
function. You know, the
I-
HVAC
you
is
know,
all the way
spent
over
my
here.
young
The boiler
adulthood
room is all the way
in
over
New York
there.
City.
You know, your electrical
And
fuse box
part
is
of what
over
was so
here,
nice
and so
about
even if you
moving to
want to save this
Virginia
little spot,
was that
that still
and-
might end up being a very
I mean Virginia as a
expensive
whole, because I moved to
Yeah,
Arlington.
right.
So, you know, like you
So
might not
that
actually
was-
gain too much from a partial
So that was
demolition
so
in
the
terms
first
of
place I
cost.
was
So
Arlington. So that was
there's
one party rule.
a lot that
but
is
Virginia as a state was so
happening. You know,
refreshing.
there's a lot
because
that
it's
is
just like, well, you
happening there,
can't
but
go
it,
all
it
the way
does,
here or all the way
Right.
there.
But we all also
Right.
have to
because
prepare ourselves for the
because anything can
possibility
happen
that
to any of these electeds at
the
any time, and they know it.
So
So
they
they
are
are
going
going
to
to
dollars and cents
stick to
comes
the
in,
middle. They're
they're
going to
stick to
stick
the
to
middle.
what matters.
reality
They're going to stick
of this
to
comes in, we
solving
have to brace
problems.
ourselves.
They're
There's
stick
the
to that,
impact
and that's
that
a
maybe
really
the patient
nice
can't be saved, and we
feeling.
have to start
And
talking more about how
that
we
is,
memorialize the
someone said
significance
to
of the
me
structure.
the other day, it's just like we don't have
and
we don't have a two-party
less
system.
about
We have
the
two
continued use of
one-party
the structure.
systems. So
Because, but that's
the more you go,
I saw a thing on the
under
Wall Street
single
Journal
party
today where
rule,
they're
the
taking
incentives become distorted. And I
old
don't mean
schools
that,
and
like, this is not
repurposing
unique
for
to
low-income housing.
Democrats. I mean, I don't
So
know. I
you could
chuckled
maybe-
at that. I chuckled
You
at
could
that.
maybe do that.
because that plot is
it's just
actually
not a
zoned
healthy
R1.
dynamic. I actually liked
which is a residential zone.
2024. I was
Declare victory.
out in front of early voting. And I was there with one
So
of
in all of our little
Democratic volunteers,
back and forth
he turned
with
to me
the,
and he was
because
like,
we've
"I'm
needed
so
to get a
glad
special
you're
use
standing.
permit to
I'm so
get
glad you
new,
guys are
to
here
get new
and that
dean,
you
and
guys
It would not be simple.
we would need a use
kind of a
permit if
strange
we
thing
wanted
for a
to
Democratic
use
volunteer to
old
say. I was like,
dean.
"Oh,
And, we need all these
thank you
special
for that.
permits for all of these
Why
things.
don't
I'm just
you,
like,
you
you know
know,
what, we
Right,
could just,
right.
according to the
He's like,
zoning, we could just
well,
build a
I'm an
neighborhood out
environmentalist.
here, and
Yeah.
there's every organism.
What could go wrong?
Which is like, let me clarify, is not something I
Every
actually
organism
want to
needs a
do,
predator.
but is,
And,
so I did
you're,
chuckle.
you guys,
I thought it was funny.
When you
are
posted
good.
that,
Yeah,
'cause I was
it's good
like,
that you're-
actually, we could
it's
do
good
that
for
by
us
right,
that
and there would
you're
be,
here.
Well, I think it is. It's,
no-
contest of
no,
ideas is a
well,
good
I mean,
thing. the city's in the,
And
when you
real
don't
estate
have it, you
business,
miss it. You
Right,
guys
well,
could
and
go
that
in.
is-
you know,
that is
there
what I
is
hope
there
we
are
actually
some
have
school
on the
divisions
school
that
board
have
contest
and
of
do
ideas,
operate
because
housing,
like for their
I don't know that that's
workforce. Like, I think the
necessarily what's
city of
coming
Falls
based
Church
on
might be
some
one early
Wow.
It's
things,
not
but I
without
don't
precedence,
but
but
I
if
do
it's an idea,
hesitate in
listen,
getting
if it's a clash of
involved in
ideas,
that
I will
because
meet you on the field
we've
of
got
ideas.
1,200
I'll be there. I
employees.
will be there. I'll see
Any-
you there. And
okay, and let's say
I
we,
might not
you know,
convince you otherwise,
day
but I'm gonna.
it comes
but I
into
got
our
I'll
points.
show up.
we
I'll
have
show up, and I
Yeah.
got points to make. And
who do
it'll
we
be
pick?
interesting
Who
to
do you-
me
yeah.
as your season
How do
2
we?
develops.
What happens
How many
if something
people
happens to that
actually come and
person's
sit here
employment?
and
Do
that they
this?
know,
Sure.
you know,
I
what
will
is, ugh.
share
It just
that
gets,
prediction
know,
with
it
you
just starts to get
off
very sticky.
camera.
And
Okay.
so I think that
and you're
the city is
happy
starting
to share it, whatever. But
look at
I
workforce
I
housing,
I
or they've
think
been
I looking have at a it. pretty
you
They're
know,
going to spend
they're-
$6 million.
right,
So,
yeah, the city is.
who
The
isn't?
city's kind of
And,
doing
at the
it,
end of
and
the
so
day,
I'm
that's a
content.
political calculus.
My seat
Oh, I
on
mean,
the
you
It's
don't
like-
want to do no harm. At first, you do no harm.
Right.
Not
Do
right.
I feel like if I'm going to
myself
put my
interested in
butt in
getting
that
into
chair to talk to Harold over It's for a an lot. hour
Real
or two.
estate.
I mean, you're
Is it
talking
gonna
about
do me any
property
good?
management and all that fun and games.
And
It's
I
like,
think
you
a
know,
lot of
the
times,
math,
unfortunately,
purchase.
Right.
The,
you know,
based on my
I guess
season
it's
one
the
experience,
EDA.
like,
I don't
you know,
think
they're
that
having
there
to
was a
manage that
campaign going
property
on.
now.
No, you have to manage it. It's
And that's
it's
probably
you
not
know,
what
there
the
was
EDA
treasurer
people
and-
signed
Or,
up
you
with.
know, and
that.
that is a That's true.
work
And
for
they and
lawyers
both
that-
commissioner of the revenue candidates came. I
They
managed
did.
leases
They
for,
did.
commercial leases
But you know,
for
I
shopping
asked
centers like
sitting
that.
board
I'll
members
tell you
and
what, that
council
was
members.
that was their full-time job.
Not. It's a lot.
Was
Very many of the
managing
school
the
board
It's
members
a lot.
I mean,
agreed
and
show up.
God forbid you get involved with the HOA. Some of we
the-
have an HOA
more
here
of the
where my
council
office
members
building
showed up.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who's in charge of it,
I enjoyed
he's like, "Are
talking
you
to
sure?"
him.
Like,
I'm
I
not
don't have any
interested.
reason. Like, no,
No,
to
no.
just like
I'm not interested
email
at
Tom
all.
Osina
Right.
and serving.
I don't want to pick
because
on him and say like,
no
hey,
one's
let's meet
ever
for
happy
coffee
at
at
those
this
meetings. I mean, I just, but to sit down and do this,
No one's ever happy
it's a
at a lot of
longer
meetings. and
conversation.
people-
I feel like.
People
Well,
do
you
things
need to
anyway.
be-
People,
yeah,
you need to be engaged. You need to be able to express yourself. and
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
And I
So,
thoroughly enjoyed talking to
Yeah.
him.
This isn't.
We don't agree on a hell of a lot.
I generally don't.
That's okay.
I don't have like
I loved his
questions I
episode.
give people.
I didn't know
yeah,
that he was
Sarah did ask
a
me,
no,
like,
radio
hey,
disc
like, what's
jockey. I
top
love
of
it.
mind?
I've
I'm
actually
happy to
learned
do
a
that.
lot from every
But
single
one thing
person.
I know,
knew
like
none
coming
of that
out
at the
of
time.
finally
But,
the state has a
I
budget.
thoroughly
Yeah.
How much
enjoyed
did
it.
that
Obviously,
impact you
I've
guys?
been
Did it
with Wolf for a
change
long
things
time.
much
You
for
know,
the
we
schools?
So,
together? But
For us, we got what we expected, and then a little bit more. But there's still, the superintendent's office is still kind of processing what that is.
Right.
Like we had in our proposed, in our adopted budget, excuse me, we had in our adopted budget the things that we knew we could do, and then we had a list of 3 things that we were hoping to do,
Right.
depending on what the state was going to do and what the city's also free to contribute to these unfunded, our unfunded needs as we called them. One of them was, and the top one, was funding the funding positions that were recommended to us after a study of our special ed department. So our students who are our students with disabilities who are in that classification, grades 3 through 8, their composite math score was a 20% pass rate versus the state's 40% pass rate for those same kids for the same
Right.
group of tests. And this had been going on, like that was, I mean, it's not last year, we don't have last year's data, but that was from the year before that. And then part of what Osborne's issue, and not just Osborne, but several of our other schools, part of what their issue has been under the state accountability frameworks, which used to be accreditation, which is now these different ratings, on track, off track, whatever. Part of the persistent issues that had been going on at Osborne and other schools was that our students with disabilities were not performing well and had an unacceptable, like by the state's judgment, an unacceptable gap between how the students who were not in that category were performing. So at one point I raised my hand and I was just like, we got to study this. Like this, we cannot, we can't, we're clearly at our maximum. So can we take can we hire somebody to take a look and generate for us a set of recommendations? And the board unanimously supported that. So I was happy that the board unanimously supported that. And we got the results of that study. And so part of our biggest unmet need was funding the positions associated with that, which was basically, the recommendation was that our special ed teachers were spending too much time in administrative work, that was burdening and overwhelming them. So this is essentially like a lead teacher position where that will take a lot of that work away from them so that you can spend more time actually teaching and working with the kids. So, and that is, we've just gotten, before the holiday, we had just gotten, the superintendent's office had just gotten the actual calculator that the state releases in terms of how much we can expect from the new budget. And so there's optimism that we can get most of the way there for funding most of those
Well, that's good.
positions. But we will, that's very pending, and we will see. And even by the time this airs, right, because you get the calculator. It's been my experience on the board that sometimes they mess up the inputs into that calculator, and not the superintendent's office. The state will have to say, "Oops, sorry, we messed that up. We have to redo it." We're all going to get a public. There will be a public presentation. We're going to have to amend the budget with it. So it's so that's coming. But there is optimism that part's going to be taken care of. Our other 2 things were basically related to our cybersecurity attack. discovered a lot of vulnerabilities there. So this would be for contracted services for a place like Matrix Computer Consulting, for example, that would take on more of our cybersecurity, so that because our internal IT department is at its maximum in terms of its headcount and its expertise, and so you hire a place,
Sure.
you contract out some other. There are certain functions you can contract out, and that to enhance our cybersecurity. So that was unmet need number 2, and
Did you get any money for that?
Well, we'll see. Priority
waiting.
number 1 was the special ed
Okay.
thing. So anything more, if all of that's met, then we can go into priority 2, and then we can go into priority 3.
Right.
Priority 3 was a global welcome center, which I think I talked about in one of my other appearances here. But right now, if you are trying to register for Manassas City Public Schools, you have to do it at each of the schools. So if you have
Oh, right. I remember this.
if you have 3 or 4 kids, you might be taking
Several places.
and taking a day trip. And then if you speak a language other than English at home, there's a battery of tests we have to give you to assess your English language level.
Right.
And right now we pull teachers to give those tests.
Right.
And so setting this up means that our teachers can stay in the buildings, can stay teaching, and that you could take those tests.
Other people could
That the
Right.
people at our Global Welcome Center could administer those tests, and that would help. And that makes it a more user-friendly experience for the parents. I think Prince William County definitely has a Global Welcome Center. I'm pretty sure Manassas Park does. This is
It makes sense.
Yeah, this is not really breaking new ground in terms of how this is done. People have kind of given me a hard time about this priority number 3 being like, well, it sounds like overhead. It's just like, well,
It is.
it is, but the overhead means that teachers stay teaching.
That's right.
And so that's what we need them to do.
Well, I mean, in the private sector, there's overhead, and you want to manage that overhead, but there's, wise use of overhead where, my office manager, she does all the client contacts, she sends the quotes, she answers the questions. I don't want my techs doing that. It's kind of like your teachers.
Yeah, right.
I don't want my techs buying hardware from random places on the internet because it's $5 cheaper or whatever. No. You guys answer IT questions.
Right.
She does all of this other stuff. So they're different skill sets.
Yeah, they're different. And if you are being asked to do a different function, you're not doing your primary function, and that's and now we're not using you. It's just not efficient. So I am really supportive of that, and actually also as an example of how overhead can make a difference. One of the new positions we had this year was an alternative education coordinator, and this was a discussion we had at our retreat. Our discipline statistics have improved a lot, and like really a lot. And what's of course the natural question as we were discussing at our retreat was, how to what do we attribute these improvements? And the part of the answer was we have an alternative education coordinator whose whole job it is to look at our at-risk students and what's their profile? Why are you missing school, or why are you misbehaving in school? What actually is the best option for you? Should you be at Independence, for example, or are you a candidate for Pathways? Maybe actually what's going on with you is that you have a chronic health condition, and maybe homebound instruction is what's best for you. Or have someone who's thinking about that all the time and have that be their job instead of, previously it was on individual principals, and individual principals don't necessarily have the whole portfolio of the division, and they've got a whole bunch of other things they're doing too. So to have this be consolidated under one person, it's like all the building has to do is be like, this kid needs.
They just need to identify.
This kid needs more attention. That makes it, and now we have a person whose expertise it is to be like, okay, how can we get you serviced so that you are receiving an education, but you are not.
How many kids are in Pathways?
So we ended the school year with 25, I believe. I think the goal was 26, and I think we ended the school year with 25. There's capacity for 60
That doesn't
students.
seem like a lot.
It doesn't seem like a lot. It's not, and it's not a lot. It's not. These programs.
But it makes
are,
that big a difference.
These programs are small. I mean, yes. Well, it's not. It's not just Pathways, right? Like Independence Traditional School, we only have 20 slots there, right? These are.
Are they full?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, so with Pathways, we have effectively doubled our alternative education
Right.
offerings. And now Independence that can be a little bit misleading because Independence, they have shifts. Kids don't go, not all kids go all day. Like,
Oh,
you
okay.
can sometimes go half days, so you can sometimes sneak 2 kids into one of your slots or whatever. But it is, yeah, I mean, these are small programs. I mean, they're only effective when they're small because you're talking
Right.
about kids with
High
a lot
intensity.
of high intensity, high needs
Yeah,
kids,
yeah, I get it.
and they need a lot of attention. So it is. So yeah, the programs are small, but they're impactful to the kids who get in there. We had, I think it was 2 Osborne, 2 graduates out of Pathways that were not on track to do that prior to getting into Pathways. And Independence is very much the same story. And not just that, we also have an evening school at Osborne, and a lot of people, this has been going on for several years, and it kind of falls to the background. People sometimes forget about it. Sometimes I forget about the Osborne Evening School, but that's also really impactful because if you are a young parent, for example, or
Right.
if you have family responsibilities where you need to work during the day, we can get your high school education for you in the evening, and it's only certain kids that qualify for that too. And that's also part of the alt ed coordinator, like, okay, what's your profile and
Right.
how can we serve you? And that program is a little bit bigger than, there's something like 80 or so kids in the evening school versus the 25 or 26 that we ended with at Pathways versus the 20 or so.
And those evening school kids, those are like kids, like 15 years old or something.
I mean, I think most of them are upperclassmen. I think most of them are juniors and seniors. But yeah, I
Or
mean,
kids.
you're. It's not a GED program. It is high school.
Right.
You are
right,
attending high
okay.
school at night, so it's
Well, that's pretty cool.
yeah. And there is obviously, if you are no longer eligible to attend high school, then there's
Well,
GEDs
right,
that you can get.
Right. Right. Let me ask you a question. This is going to be a little bit out of left field, but not a ton.
Okay.
I think
I'm ready.
that like when in like '08, when I was in office, I worked a lot with the schools to try and come up with new kinds of programs, and the schools mostly weren't really interested in my opinion on how to run the schools, which
To run
was
for school board, Andy.
which was predicted by some of my compatriots on the city council and later confirmed. But it was as a part of that, and I enjoyed working with them. But as a part of that, you start drilling into like whatever you call it now, but like English as a second language kind of stuff. And it was always sort of I always just surmised that at some point what would happen with the curve on ESL was, especially back then, it was still going up. But then, as more and more of those families assimilated and the young ones started going to school and they were learning in English in kindergarten or first grade or whatever, that would start to kind of do this. Has anything like that happened?
I mean, so it is. I mean, it's still true that it's still easier to learn a second language when you're young.
Oh, sure.
So we have the kids who graduate the fastest from an ESOL designation are the kids who start the earliest. So if you come in kindergarten, a lot of those kids, we can have you fully graduated from the program by the time you're done
Right.
with elementary school. If you are entering for the first time and you're 17 years
Your
old,
high school, yeah.
and
tough.
that's just harder. Your brain is hard.
It's hard to learn.
It's just harder when you're that age. But this is something we're starting to look a little bit more closely at as well, in terms of like, okay, what holds back our long-term Ls, or what their designation is.
Right.
If you're staying in the L program, you're staying L designated. I think for 5 years or longer is what makes you a long-term ELF. It's like, okay, so what's going on here that you're not progressing, and how can we help you do that? People also kind of misunderstand what it is to be ESOL. It means a lot of kids who are designated even level 2 ESOL. So level 1 is you're the least level, your least amount of English language, and then level 2 is just one notch above that. You are most likely conversational in the English language by level 2, because we're not talking about, conversations are easier.
Sure.
Puedo hablar español, pero no sé cómo se dice isosceles triangle en
Right.
español. Like,
Right. Right.
You know, it's very different to have a conversation like this. And actually, there was an ESOL, a level 2 biology class that I observed at Osborne. And the class is taught in English. Like, ESOL instruction is given in English. A lot of people don't realize that as
I didn't know
well.
that.
Yeah, you are.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, and also there's a lot of studies on if you translate, you just wait for the translation, right? You just like, I know you're going to say it
Right.
in the easier language for me, so I'm just going to wait. So it is, you know, the instruction is always given in the English language. You're allowed to do like facilitative translations where it's like,
Right.
you know, oh no, this one, not that one, or whatever. But the instruction is supposed to be given in the English language. But level 2, so the instruction's in English. There is an ESOL teacher in the room, so there's 2 teachers in the room. Teacher 1 is going through the lesson, and teacher 2 is out with the students, and then one student raises his hand because they're talking about the carrying capacity of deer in an ecosystem. So what's carrying capacity? And
Right.
even if you speak English conversationally, I know what it means to carry,
Right.
and
Right.
I know the word capacity.
This is
but
not that.
what is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is carrying capacity? And
Yeah.
so she goes over and she explains,
I got it.
she gives him a more detailed explanation about what carrying capacity means in a scientific, biological sense.
Right.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what goes on with that. This is now I'm back out at the doors, and now I'm back out talking to the general public, and it's just like, oh, well, there's so many ESOL kids, which means that English isn't spoken in the schools, and it's just like, oh, no, like it is.
So a number of ESOL kids, has it like leveled off or gone down, or
I mean, so we have
roughly? There's.
I would have. That's not a chart I've looked at recently, so I don't want to speak
No, I get it.
inaccurately. But it's been pretty level.
Has it?
Yeah, I don't think. I think the reason I'm not remembering it is because there hasn't
I
been.
mean, if you're not remembering it, it's probably odds are status quo.
I think the odds are status quo. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I took like 2 or 3 years of Spanish from Miss Neifeld. I'm
Yeah.
actually friends with her on Facebook. My high school Spanish teacher.
There you go.
I have retained enough to order food in a Mexican restaurant, find the bathroom, and order a beer.
There you go. Well,
And
that's what you need. You don't need to know carrying capacity of deer
I don't
in
need
an
to know
ecosystem.
that. Well, I was in a there's a little store, Latino store, or I don't know what you call it. It's a store that has they sell a lot of different things, and I wanted to get. They make like this green juice, like that. They have a juicer thing, and I asked the lady. I was like, "¿Qué es eso?" And the problem was she answered.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of words in there that I just did.
You asked an open-ended question. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a
Get
mistake.
yourself into trouble there. But no, I mean we have had a demographic shift that we saw in the last school year in terms of the cohort of kids who were kindergarten age last year. They were born in 2020 or 2021, which means that a lot of them weren't born at all because it was the pandemic and people delayed their childbearing plans.
Yeah.
And that's now that we have access to birth control in this era of history is something that people do. People didn't have much of a choice when they were, when Rome was burning. But but in our modern society, birth rates go down when crisis hits. And that was an era of crisis, and so a lot of people who had been planning to have kids decided to delay them a few years.
I mean, if you have a choice, uncertainty really impacts that.
Yeah, and so, and actually I remember this when I was at Alphabet Cooperative Preschool. that's at the time they have 2-year-olds in there now, but at the time we were just a 3-year-old and just for 3 and 4-year-olds.
Right.
And when this 2020, 2021 kids were turning 3 years old, our enrollment, and we're calling other preschools to be
What's
like, do
going
you
on?"
have kids? We don't have kids. Do you have kids? And they're like, we don't have kids either. Where are they? That was actually some tough years for that preschool because
bet.
you only have 3-year-olds, you only have 4-year-olds. And and you go from an enrollment of like 18 down to an enrollment of 6. Like it was really
That's brutal.
a big drop
Yeah.
and then 6 kids became, you add 2 or you had 3 or 4 kids, 6 kids becomes 10 kids as people, because some people don't send 3-year-olds to preschool, so your 4-year-old class is always bigger. But the birth rates they've not recovered
No.
pre-COVID. So that's a problem, from a school facility usage point of view.
Well, I mean, when birth rates are being covered on the front page of the Wall Street
Yeah.
Journal, it's an issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, and so we're having now our kindergartners who were in Manassas City Public Schools last year. It was a small kindergarten class. It was a small
Right.
kindergarten class.
Wow.
We went from 120 or so 4th graders in some buildings to 89 kindergartners, right? And that's huge. And that's that's COVID and birth rates. So we're hitting the birth rate low right now. They did recover a little bit after COVID, but they've not exceeded what.
So do you think you're going to see an enrollment sag, bottom
this
work
is-
its
so-
way through the?
Right. Well, the other confounding thing that we have in Manassas City specifically is you can actually see the impacts that immigration has on.
Oh, sure, I bet.
Manassas. Yeah, and that's something we have zero. That's nothing that any school board.
So have you seen
controls.
enrollment fall because of like the immigration enforcement stuff?
Well, you see the kids who walk through the door. The kids who aren't walking through the door, you don't know necessarily what happened to them. I know from my experience in the preschool by looking at the birth rates that a lot of them were just not born.
Right. But I mean, just in gross numbers, white, Latino, it doesn't matter. Just are we seeing like an enrollment dip work its way through?
I
our
mean,
system?
it's very possible. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing some schools had a very big. Some schools
Yeah.
had 4th graders that were
Fairfax
in
County, I think, had a pronounced dip.
we had a pretty big dip, and that makes facility planning hard because it's
Sure.
like, okay, well, I'm reasonably certain what immigration policy is going to be through the end of 2028, but come January 2029, I have no idea.
No.
I have no idea what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so if you're adjusting, there are folks who want like, oh, this is the new normal, and kids and you need to start talking about how you're going to be managing a shrinking population. It's like not necessarily. Not necessarily, because birth rates, yes, but there's more to kids come from more than just Prince William Hospital. There's
Right.
and that is very difficult. That's very difficult to predict. These last several years, it's been down and it's been up and it's been down. And where are we going next? Do I have any reason to think it's going to stabilize? I don't know. But we're paying people who are better experts than me,
we are,
or better
yeah.
experts than you, better experts
Yeah.
than anybody to do these projections for us, because it is something that it does worry me as a school board member, because you don't want to make the wrong decision.
Well, I mean, you don't want to spend $40 million on a school and, everyone's kind of looking around like, what are we going to do with half of it?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a little dramatic.
Right. I mean, yeah. Or if you end up, oh, this, birth rates will never recover, or immigration will never recover, or none of this will ever recover, and then you start. I don't want to use the C word because no one's actually talking about this, but let's say some future board starts talking about consolidation. What happens if you consolidate a school and then all of a sudden,
because immigration can be a thing.
Here everybody is. So it's frustrating.
Well, I mean,
to deal with this.
You just got to leave your options open. I think
level of Well, like I said, we're getting a facility study done that does include a analysis of our of the school age population and how many people we can expect over the next how many kids we can expect over the next several years. And so there are people whose whole job this is.
That's still like
demographers.
voodoo. I mean,
There's people whose it's their whole job, and so I'm going to trust them to do their whole job. And I really look forward to that report because we do have some things going on. We have New Jenny Dean has capacity, fire marshal capacity, 900 to 1,000 kids, but it's a 630 kid school now.
Right.
So there 630 or so kids are going to move into a building that can fit a third more students potentially. And do we keep it that way? Because in our previous study, our previous demographic study, the Dean boundaries were identified as high growth, right? Because it includes Bristow Station and parts of Georgetown
GTS,
South, and so those were identified. You're going to have a lot of student growth in these boundaries specifically. It's just like, I'll be curious to see what our new demographers say.
Manassas is becoming this wild place where, I was born here and I grew up here, and Georgetown South at first was a relatively desirable place, and as that first sort of group of young adults either sold and moved or moved and rented, Georgetown South suffered. And then, there was a big drug problem there for some number of years, and it wasn't very desirable. And, the police opened a substation in Georgetown South. It got so bad. And I was shocked the other day when someone told me that the average sale price in GTS is like $400,000. You have to be kidding. I mean, how is that a thing? I mean, that's so expensive.
It's so well. First of all, houses are just so expensive. Houses are just so expensive. Secondly, it is a very I get to go in there, right?
Right.
Georgetown South, I think, suffers from the fact that it's essentially a closed loop. There's no reason to go in there.
That's 100%.
Unless you have business in there, and there are events in there. So as a school board member, I have the opportunity to get to get in there for different things. And obviously when you run for office, you knock on doors. So but if I wasn't in that role, I would just be driving by, and if my neighbor who only remembers it from 1992, if I have just their representation to go on, I wouldn't know how much.
Well, you wouldn't go back there.
Right. I would have no idea. But when you're actually in there, I see it. And it's actually, my husband and I, when we lived in Arlington, we lived in a community that was very similar to Georgetown South. It was that same style of brick townhomes, and it was, we couldn't live in a place like that. We have 5 of us now. Oh my goodness, so many people. There was only 2 and then 3 of us when we were in one of those before. And my husband was not working from home back then, so needing an office space was not a consideration for us. And so, but now it's I don't know how we would live without. I don't know how we would live without his office space to be a door that closes. But it's a desirable way to live. I mean, it's kind of a lower lift for first-time owners to be okay, I don't have to do an entire exterior. I don't have a lot of mowing.
There's not that's exactly.
There's community grounds where if I do have kids, I can
take them out there.
They can go out there. The playground's there. My kids play out there. I've had my kids come with me and they play in there, and it's no problem at all. So it's in a way it doesn't surprise me, because I'm a little bit closer to I'm middle-aged now. I identify as a young person because I have a 2-year-old, but I'm not really a young person. I am closer, but I know a lot of young people because I do have a 2-year-old, and young people are more likely to have them. And that kind of townhouse living with community grounds and resource, that's very desirable. And you can walk to a lot from.
Well, I think that's. So I grew up in Old Town. But back then, when I was a kid, not all of Old Town was all that desirable.
No.
There were some noticeable holes in the fabric there, but I can only imagine that townhouses or condos, that's much more intense community living. And I think you're much more likely to participate in stuff in the community than some of what happened like where I was. I mean, there were still a lot of kids where I grew up, but I mean, nothing like over there. And when it was either TJ or Meg, I think he told me the average price was $400,000. I thought, that seems like an impossible number.
I mean, it's all houses are
No, I get that,
all
but
houses are expensive, but Georgetown South is desirable. Like it is. I get it. I see it.
yeah.
Having purchased a house very similar to that at in a different place, and it's funny because that was, I mean, this is in Arlington County, so what counts as a tough neighborhood in Arlington County is also kind
I don't feel like it exists.
is also kind of a different thing. But like but where we were was also like, you're south of Columbia Pike. Oh my god, yeah. This is like
You're in the boonies.
It's like it's great actually, and if what you're chasing is an urban experience where you are around people and where you have amenities, Georgetown South has that. So
Well, it does, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was over at the food truck, which is one of in the top 10 restaurants in Manassas for sure. Not to mention La Jarajita, which is right there.
I know the two of them are they're both very, very
My buddy
good.
Rich, he's from New York,
Yeah.
and he goes to that food truck, like I think on the regular, and he tells me like he gets these different things, and I eat there too, but someone mentioned to me, they're like, yeah, at some point probably gonna gentrify this little strip, and I was like, what?
I know.
Like I was in a panic. I was like, stop, don't do anything.
I mean, there's a lot that.
I mean, I get it's valuable.
Right. I mean, it is unfortunate when things like that happen. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. Right.
Yeah.
That's like way in the future. But
Yeah.
that is, if I'm walking around and I'm a developer and I'm keeping my eyes out, I'm looking, look at these ultra expensive luxury townhomes that have gone in over here, and look at what walking distance is over here, and shouldn't this be a Barnes and Noble instead? Right. Like I can see the developer mindset like that. But
Right.
that is like,
I don't even.
we got to get around the corner from the hotel, and we got to turn the corner on that. But there's like a lot that has to happen, and I'm just going to enjoy La Jarajita and La Tufita like while we still have
I love
them,
those places.
because those are very
Yeah, I mean the hotel and the parking deck. I don't love the parking deck side of the street. I don't like that proposal at all. It looks like a fort, a military fort to me.
I just don't understand why the rendering that they're making public is from this up here, because that's not how you experience. That's not how you're going to experience the building. You're going to experience the building on the ground.
Well, but if it's massed right to the edge of the sidewalk, like those townhouses are right across the street from, diagonal, catty corner across the street from the Catholic Church, I mean, they mass right up to the street. And it's like being in New York City. I mean, in Manassas, but I don't love that one at all. The other side has got to become, we have to get moving.
Yeah. Well, you're cracking me up right now, Andy, because when I go and I knock on doors and I tell people I'm your school board member and I'm running for school board, and then all the time, without fail, what they want to talk to me about are city things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And it's like, that's actually, I've got opinions. We all do. But we're here to talk about the schools, just to remind you.
I'm not going to put you on the spot for that. That's been popular on Facebook the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, well that's just, I wish that they had give me a more real, how am I going to experience this? Because it does look like Meredith House is like a little Monopoly set compared to the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I don't love how this looks, but but that's not how. But there are ways where if the top parts are set back or whatever, that it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, you mass away from the sidewalk
when you're actually on the ground, and so I just want to see what does it look like when you're on the ground, because that's what really tells the tale. And I lived in New York City for years, and and you go down to the financial district, and it is kind of disconcerting down there because these skyscrapers are huge, like hundreds of stories. and it was built in the old Dutch part of town where the streets are super narrow.
Right.
And so you do
And
feel,
then they turn.
and so you feel like you are walking through it is
canyon.
it is a little bit of an unsettling feeling when you do that, and is not something that you would want to really invite into. I mean, anywhere. I don't necessarily think that was I understand why the far downtown in New York developed that way, because it was the confluence of, you could get there from Jersey and Long Island and
Sure.
from other parts of the city fairly easily, and from Staten Island on the ferry, and so there are all of these industry, all of these companies built their headquarters there. So I understand why it happened, but also from just a livability point of view, it is like
It's not much livable. Yeah.
it's not super appealing. But you also have to, if you want something there, and you don't that MIFCO site is it's not beautiful, nor is it historically significant. So we can move on from the MIFCO site, and
Yeah.
I want to see what and we can bring more to our downtown through that MIFCO site. But you need a project also to be viable. Part of the reason why things are expensive is that they are expensive to build. And so and the only way that you get to economic viability on the part of a developer is if you have a certain.
No, that's the project has got to pencil out. The
Yeah.
budget's got to work.
You got to pencil, right?
And
No
the
one's going to do it for free.
The problem that I see currently is that the current administration is very willing to participate in monetary fashion in these projects, and I think that there are certain key properties where that's maybe not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think $6 million at the airport is a key property. I think it's more like a campaign promise that somebody made while they're busy raising tax rates at 8%. And I promise you, I'll get back to the schools. But anyways,
He's switched me.
I'm all for that hotel idea. So when do you think you'll get? You have people doing studies on like demographics and facilities. When does that come back together, and then you'll take it to a retreat or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come out in phases, because these things cost a lot of money, and so
Sure.
we didn't have it in a single fiscal year to fund the whole thing.
Makes sense.
So it'll be rolling out over the next year, basically. I mean, it's going to be a while
that's not
before
bad.
we wrap our whole heads
I mean, those
around
are
it.
all long-term things anyway.
Yeah, they are very long term. I mean, we got some quirky things going on in Manassas. We have a high school that its capacity is fine, but if we have school buildings with 89 kindergartners, what's happening there? Like as those kindergartners matriculate, and assuming they don't get augmented by later arriving
Right.
students. But most studies show that your kindergarten class has a high
Sure.
level of prediction in terms of what your graduating class is going to be.
Yeah.
13 years in the future. So it's just like, okay, well, how do we manage this? How do we handle this topsy-turvy kind of situation if it turns out that this is projected to be a more permanent phenomenon? How do we, Baldwin Elementary, Baldwin Intermediate, that's always been something that's been on my radar in terms of like, okay, there's all sorts of logistical issues that we run in with that school being structured that way.
Are there intermediate kids in that building?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so that building is two schools,
Yeah.
two administratively separate schools. So it is, pre-K to 4 in Baldwin Elementary on the first 2 floors, and then the 3rd floor and the administrative suite is Baldwin Intermediate on the other side. And there's only 40 or so kids that attend Baldwin Intermediate
Right.
as 5th, 6th graders. And this is longer term Manassas City history, so I'll fill you in, but maybe you remember this. There was a period of time 20 years ago when the elementaries and Mets were overcrowded at the same time. So the solution was, we're going to take a grade level out of the elementaries and a grade level out of Mets. we're going to build Mayfield. And then, and I don't know how this happened, but within 5 years now Mayfield is overcrowded.
Yeah.
So now we have to build, Baldwin Elementary is on our list to relocate and rebuild. So while we're doing it, let's come up with a temporary solution. And it is my understanding that it was supposed to be temporary, that Baldwin Intermediate was going to be added to the top floor until a more permanent solution could be worked out. And the school's coming up on its 10-year anniversary, not this school year, but next school year. And so it's just like, in what sense was it temporary? But it's, you do run into logistical issues in that building because poor Baldwin Intermediate, they can't have all school assemblies because Baldwin Elementary uses the gym, right? Or they can have an all-school assembly if they really schedule,
right.
If they really coordinate very closely with the elementary and make sure that full gym is cleared, and then maybe the kids do health class or something that day, or can be totally outdoors that day or something like that. But it's just like, okay, so that's kind of an issue.
Well, so I was on the council when we voted to build that building.
Elementary, Baldwin.
The hybrid.
Or Mayfield.
The hybrid. No, not Mayfield was before me.
Yeah.
So the Baldwin Elementary and the intermediate.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't really follow like I follow you, and I follow Wolf, and I follow a couple of people, most of the elected people, but I don't do a whole lot reading of minutes and stuff like that. I'm over all of that. It's out of my system. And
cheers to you.
yeah, it took a couple of years. But, I still retain an interest. I pay an awful lot in property taxes. So, I retain an interest. But back then, the schools basically said, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. We have to do like you described. So from here to here, put them in a new building.
Right.
And I wasn't wild about the idea because I think that Mayfield had some issues.
Well, its roof collapsed.
There was that. But it just seemed like it was a weird arrangement, but we needed something. The old Baldwin School was, to put it kindly, past its prime.
Oh yeah.
It had some issues, and we needed to build it. So they just needed, a bunch of capital money, which we managed to finagle on the city council side, and that which was probably the worst budget cycle we ever went through when I was on council, because you had people that were super passionate about, not raising taxes at all. They didn't want to build a building. They didn't think Baldwin was necessary. And I don't know. I didn't go to Baldwin when I was a kid, but I visited there while I was still in schools. And it was beat to hell. It was old.
Buildings have a life cycle.
Yeah,
at a certain point, they reach a point where you either have to majorly recapitalize them, or you have to tear them down.
Yeah. So there were lots of issues, and we knew we needed X number of dollars, and the council was almost evenly split. And so I went to one of the other less right-wing guys and the city manager, and I struck a deal with them. And the staff hated me for it, because we went through this, and I'm not going to say they're wrong, okay? But what I did know is we had to build a school. And so when we did that, I took the other council member, we went into the city manager's office, and we kicked the door shut and had it out. And when we were done, we had to make adjustments to the staff, some staffing levels. We had to defer some projects, but we had our pile of money to build the school. So I really didn't know. I thought it was a little bit of a wonky idea, but I was like, I don't know. They know about running schools. I don't. So here's money, build the damn thing.
And I don't. So I understand the rationale for Mayfield, like why. Okay, we had these two problems, so let's do that. And it does. And of course, I'm very much Monday morning quarterbacking this whole thing because I wasn't there. But looking at it now, there's a reason why other school systems do not do this typically. Because we send our kids to 4 layers of school between the ages of 10 and 14, and every study out there shows that transitioning between schools is actually a majorly stressful process for kids.
I believe it.
Because you you're in there with a new configuration of kids. You're in there with new teachers, new principals, new rules, new everything.
Yeah.
2 years isn't really enough time to get your feet under you before you're out again.
Right.
And you can have as many transition meetings as you want. There is nothing
Tough.
like walking those halls and being in there. And I'm actually seeing this now that I'm maturing as a school's parent. You know, my kids are at Baldwin Elementary School. And I remember what it was like to go to every September they do an outdoor movie night. And I remember going there when my oldest was in kindergarten, and I didn't know too many people, and she didn't know too many people. It was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just sit here and whatever, and we'll, and we enjoyed the movie and it was fine. But
Right.
there was a big difference between that year and then the next year.
Oh, sure.
And then it's like, oh, well, now I know all sorts of people, and now now she knows more people, and so she's having more fun. I'm having more fun. Like, we feel more comfortable. And then as the years go on, it's like, okay, now it's more people. Now, and it compounds, and our Baldwin PTO, it functions very well, in part because we get to hold on to people
Right. Right.
for so long that people, our president was a fourth grade president, not last year, but 2 years ago, and she handed it off to a first grade or a second grade parent, and who has a bunch of kids who are younger than that, so she gets to continue the traditions and remember how to do things and maintain those connections versus like Mayfield doesn't have a PTO, and then Metz is always struggling to get its to sustain its PTO.
Middle schools are always
right. Well,
I went,
and then you do it only for 2 years. It's hard.
right. Well, I went to 4 different schools when I was in schools in Manassas, because I went to what's called Pennington now was Bennett. That was an elementary school, and then my 5th grade is actually, there's a little bit of it left. It's right next to the jail building.
Is it
And the
old
jail
tennis
building
court?
was baseball fields when I was a kid.
Okay.
And so, but there's this white cinder block building.
Oh.
There's about a half of it left now. I went to 5th grade there. And then I went to Dean for middle school and then Osborne.
Yeah.
But I only went to 5th grade 1 year there. And I don't even remember how long. I don't even know if that school had a name.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes that happens. The city, the city of Alexandria, they bought an office building and put kids in that office building for a period of time when they were redoing parts of their high school campus.
Yeah,
like,
well, I think
sometimes you just got to do that, and that just is what it is.
I think it coincides when the city started their own division.
Oh, okay.
Is when I ended up in that 5th grade thing. But I don't know. As a kid,
This is like your city of Manassas now. You can't go here.
I know. Get lost. Yeah. So it was a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
So how's the campaign going?
how's the campaign?
Are you knocking doors yet?
Oh no,
Yeah, are
I'm
you?
knocking doors. I'm out there. I'm meeting people, and it's very different to do it this time than it was.
Because now you have a record.
Yeah, and I have a record. People will have seen me, and like, I don't want to overstate this. It's not like it happens at every single door, but sometimes people are like, "Oh, I remember you," or I remember voting for you," or I follow you on social media," or "Oh, I met you in such and such place."
Right.
So that is happening more. It took me. Door knocking is, in some ways, it's slower. I can't. It's. So when I did it the first time, and I was this brand new entity just in the city, period. So everybody was new to me. So every door I had to climb this mountain of like who I am and what I want to do and what my background is and all that other kind. It was just this big mountain I had to climb every single door, every single time. And now I have kind of a different problem where sometimes I'll knock on a door and it'll be someone it turns out that I know, and they'll be like, "Come inside, let's have a beer." And I'm like, I cannot.
Can't do that.
I can't. Thank you, but call me on November 4th, and then I'll come over and we can do that. So it's kind of, I have a different set of problems now.
The first day I was knocking doors when I first ran for office. I knocked on a door that was in my neighborhood, it was right around the corner from me. And I didn't really know, it was an older lady that lived there. And I knew her just by, like, I knew she lived there, but I didn't really know her. And so I was trying to work up the nerve to knock on a door, and I had my little handouts. And I went up, I finally was like, look, this has got to get started. So I go up, I knock on the door, and I handed her my hand. I'm Andy Harover. I live right around the corner. I know you. You seem like a nice young man. Come on inside. And I said, oh, okay. And so we came inside, and then we went up on the back deck, and she had some tea, and I sat there in the blazing sun. I got all sunburned, and finally I got out of there, and I told Hal Parrish that story. He laughed at me and laughed at me. He's like, son, you have to get out of there in like 2 minutes. That's it.
Right. I mean, I think 2 minutes can be. I'll have a longer conversation if somebody really wants to get into it, but it's at a certain point you gotta move, and so there's only, and now that early voting has become such a popular phenomenon in Virginia, I'm only 10 weeks away from elections starting, from people starting to vote, from right now, from you and I sitting here talking.
I feel like early voting, I don't hate it, but I feel like it goes on for too long.
We have this state has one of the longest early voting periods.
Because especially like as a candidate, when it gets closer to the wire, like you need to have a body there.
No, you do. If you want to win.
Yeah. Well,
you don't have to do anything, but if you want to win, you do.
Right.
Yeah. No,
and
I mean,
it's like what?
It's a
10 weeks or something.
It's 45 days. It's a terrible strain on the party, on the political parties. It's a terrible strain on the campaigns. It's a block for people wanting to run for office. Period. At all. End of story. Because it's like, well, I've got a job. And a lot of people have. And early voting hours are they start their business hours 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and so if you as a candidate want to be out there, and if you have a job, when exactly are you doing that?
Well, you can't have a job and you can't have a family.
Right.
If you want to work that poll yourself.
Right. No, I mean, and it's very so it's a barrier for people wanting to do it, and there's all sorts of. I mean, goodness, the reasons to not do it are so much better and so much longer than the reasons to do it. It's not actually, if you're making a rational decision,
right.
The rational decision is not to do it at all, because why invite this, and why invite that level of stress into your life? But someone's got to do it.
Well, yeah, and I think. I mean, a couple of weeks I feel like would be fine.
In terms of if the intent of it was actually to capture people who were traveling,
right, that's exactly it.
Then we could do what most other states do and do 2 weeks. But that is part of the brass tacks political science calculation is that when you vote for 45 days. It makes it harder to mount a challenge.
Yeah.
Because if you are an outsider challenger candidate, people tend to vote for who they voted for in the past. And,
that's right.
Name recognition goes a long way. And
Manassas, they vote straight ticket a lot of times.
All right. And then there's that too. But the reason it measures like this sustain, or that current electeds, the people who have the power to change it, aren't that interested in changing it, is because it is protective of, if you're already in office, that gives you a certain advantage just out the gate. If people start voting in mid-September, it's just like, okay, well, there's 2 names here and I only recognize one of them, so that's the one I'm going to do. Right?
I get it.
So it's,
I get it.
But it is what it, it is what it is. You play the game as the rules are laid out, and I am lucky that I don't have a traditional 9 to 5 kind of job, so I can be out there, and I will be out there.
Right.
I will be out there.
So do you have like a plan of like all the streets you're going to knock on?
Oh, I mean, I've got I've got my target lists, and I've got all of that kind of stuff. It's just as many doors as possible. You know, I was at the gym today. They're like, as many reps as possible, as many doors as possible, as many videos as possible. And the good thing about my obviously I knew this time was coming, that I was going to be running for re-election, and so I was like, okay, well, I've got to get good at the internet. I've got to figure out how to do this. And so I started that about a year ago, figuring, just making out of my personal life more videos and things like that. And it has, that reach is very, or I don't have to pay for it, right?
Right,
You
right.
know, if I get 7,000 people to view a post that, you know, has my name and position on it, I've not paid for that. Like that's just,
Right.
you know,
It's organic
I've paid
reach.
for, and out, so that's like, okay, so that was part of it. Part of it is, you know, is what it is always is, you know, talking to voters, raising money, buying ads when that time comes, and, you know, putting signs out. I put a whole bunch of signs out in Old Town for the 4th
Yeah, I
of
got
July.
one. Thank you.
I did Old Town specifically because I'm like, all right, a lot of people are going
Right,
to come to
sure.
Old Town for the 4th of July, and then a lot of people did not come to Old Town for the 4th of July, so I don't know if that really worked. But if you're elsewhere in the city and you want one, I've obviously got them, so out they go. Oh, some people were like, July? Like, you can take it down for Labor Day if you want to, you know. I just want it out for now so that people
I
can
pull
see
it out, mow underneath of it, stick it back in.
Yeah, I mean they are kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, and it is, you know, several months in the future that they're
It is.
up. So I get it when so a lot of the signs that were up, some percentage of them are going to come down. You know, through the month of July and August, and then back up again for the fall. But I am, so just getting out there as much as I can, and I do have a record that I have. So I think there were a lot of people that were unsure about me when I first entered the scene, and I was this brand new commodity. Like,
You were.
Who is this person? You know, there were folks who didn't trust my motives. If all you knew about me was that I was a
Well, I heard a lot of that.
Yeah.
The first time you ran,
yeah,
I heard
right,
a lot of that.
yeah. Well,
Well,
what is she?
Not to be trusted.
Not to be trusted. Like, who is she? She's this, you know, so she's like this inner beltway plant who's, you know, she's gonna storm through our libraries, and she's gonna, you know, turn us all upside down, and she's gonna be terrible. And well, I mean, I haven't been quiet. I've been very busy on the board, but every single library book that was in Manassas City Public Schools when I started my term is still there. Let the record reflect. You know, so all of those worries, I hope are are calmed down and put to bed. Like that's not what I'm about. Like, I'm here for the real problems that we face, and I'm here, and I'm in it for the right reasons. I got a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 2-year-old. My youngest is going to graduate Osborne in 2042, which and I did calculate this the other day. No matter what happens to me this November, there are 8 school board elections between now and his graduation. So, so I'm not going anywhere. Right. And my joke, which is not a joke, is that the voters of Manassas, they have a choice that I can drive either from the front seat of the car, or if I lose this seat, I can drive from the back seat of the car.
Right. Well, you know, I think that
until the time is right for me to come back into the front seat. But
yeah, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with having, like, you know, what has turned out to be sort of like a contest of ideas, and let's see what the best way to do this stuff is. That's fine. Nothing's sacred in that thing, because the central issue is, you know, educating kids.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, that's job one.
Yes.
And, you know, if we have to have some difficult conversations, that's okay too.
Listen, I'm the accountability candidate. Yeah, I'm the accountability person. I've never been shy from those difficult, fact-based conversations. This election cycle is going to be interesting because this is our first cycle where everybody has access to ChatGPT. Everybody has access to, you know, AI, just AI in general.
Yeah.
Choo-choo.
Train.
And it's already kind of happening. I don't want to get myself in too much trouble, but there are people who I see their candidate posts and I see their candidate.
They have AI written all over.
And I am like, I've heard you talk in real life.
Yeah.
And this is not your voice.
Well, so the other place, we live some of the time down in Colonial Beach, and you know Colonial Beach politics are about 25 years behind Manassas, but still they're not immune from those AI, you know, filters that you can put on. I mean, it's in all of it. It's in all of it.
Right, and it's one thing to be a tool. Like my new logo, I have it. So I have my logo before, the apple was like on the outside of the A.
Right.
And I was having trouble getting the apple to grow. I wanted it, a little bit tighter. And so it's like, so AI did help get the apple to grow out of the A in a way that was, pleasing.
Right.
But this is otherwise a person designed,
Right.
it's a person forward logo, and this is all
Well, you can tell right
person,
away.
this is all person done. But there are other. Maybe I should add that as a tagline.
A person done.
Person powered, people powered campaign here, because there's nothing. And that is like a much broader question about what our future even holds for us in general. But what is AI? I don't want to get into a world where our elected officials in general are making their decisions because they're asking ChatGPT, someone says this and someone says that, which way should I vote? It's not ChatGPT's decision, it's yours.
Yeah.
Right? And so and you can use it to like, okay, well, what's the background of, what's the back? What are my demographic trends?
Right.
Help me understand
Right.
my demographic trends.
Right.
Okay, and I read that and I digest it with the other pieces of information that I'm receiving. But as our and you can tell I'm a mom, right? Because I look at my young children and I'm just like, I need you to think. Like the other day, my 5-year-old, she likes to play these tedious games, like a lot of 5-year-olds do. Like, Mommy, guess what color cat I'm thinking of?
Oh.
And I'm like, black? No. Yeah, then, and the game can go on forever.
Right.
And then, so I'll play for a little bit, but I won't play for a long time. But do you know who will play forever? Is our
ChatGPT.
Alexa. Will
Yeah.
play with
Yeah.
her forever in terms of
Yeah.
what color cat she's thinking of. And I'll hear her doing that. I'm like, should I stop? Yeah, the Alexa has infinite patience for the number
Right.
of cats and the color of cats that my daughter is thinking of. And so in a way, it's like, sure, if you want to think of cats and you want someone to, and you just want to do that, why not? But then I'm like, you should play with people, and you should maybe learn that not everybody wants to sit for 30 minutes and guess the
Right.
cat you're thinking.
Right. So like in IT, I hire predominantly younger folks who then we train. And at Matrix, we have a particular focus on women in technology. My wife works in the business with me. My daughter, she has her own life and her own job, but she pitches in sometimes when I need another opinion. But we always make sure that we have at least a couple of female engineers. And in the IT world, that's a little bit different. Mostly it's dudes. But the younger ones, I definitely do see them like talking to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. Well, we use Claude, but or I'll chat with them and I'll be like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I was asking Claude this question." They're scrolling forever, and I'm like, "Stop!
Yeah.
You need to put some brain power into
You
this."
need to do it. And
Yeah.
so it's very.
So, well, here's the thing. How much do you guys spend much time on AI at a board level?
I don't. Well, you mean for not as individual board members, you mean like for school.
Right, for the division.
So we do have an AI regulation. We did have an AI task force that came together and made recommendations for that. I do think, phase 2, like if Sarah gets reelected to school board, not just AI, but kind of screens in general needs not a revisit or a think about, not necessarily even that we're going to change anything, just how do we compare in our usage to other divisions? How many minutes do each of our kids get at each different level, and just try to be more intentional about it overall. Like when AI first hit, and this was maybe 2 years ago that we put together this task force,
right?
And they generated that set of recommendations. It just might need to be an ongoing. But I feel like
Probably
it's already changed so much. 2 years ago, I remember actually we had someone come to public comment to talk about it, and I remember being like, okay, because I don't live in this space. I'm not a technology person, and
Right.
I'm not afraid of technology, but I'm also you're not going to catch me at the tip of the point of any of these things. Right. So I was kind of like, okay, well, it sounds important and other people want to do it, so I'm happy to let them do it. But it is clear that there's a momentum here that is, potentially transformative and in a constructive and destructive way if you're not very, very careful about how you manage that. And the good thing about being here in Northern Virginia is that we don't have to go very far to get people who to get people who understand. And Colonial Beach, who's 25 years behind us, they'll get here in 2040 or so and to have this conversation. But we do have a lot of people we can consult and people who are willing to bring themselves into the conversation to guide us. And so I think that is definitely something that the school board in general is going to need to look at from a top to bottom point of view, like not just our high schoolers and their essays, but also to, are we sure that our kindergartners get enough, scissor and paper time, right?
Yeah.
Which I have no reason to think that they don't get enough scissor and paper time now, but you got to be intentional, and the board is an oversight body. So I want to, and that is part of it, and that's part of what I think I just bring to the board in general is that, my other joke that's not a joke about my service on the school board is I'm not someone who sits and nods. I'm a person who raises her hand.
Right.
And someone has, someone offered a critique at one point, like, oh, Sarah, you asked 44 questions in a single meeting. It's just like, and sometimes 44 questions need to be asked, right? And
and people vote for you because they want you to exercise your prerogative and understand it.
Right. Well, that's what I also, I was listening to you and Rich and about staff-led versus, council-led and how
it's a thing.
And how you feel like we have changed from one version to another. And the school board has definitely been it's kind of going, the trajectory is kind of going the other way now. It had been a staff-led institution, and I think more and more now it is becoming a board-led institution. But it's something where to stay board-led, you need leaders. You need leaders to do it.
And you need a diversity of experience.
Yes.
You need people from all walks of life.
And you need to empower people to bring whatever it is they've got to say to bring them to this, to bring that perspective out, even if it's not a perspective you agree with, right? Which can be kind of hard. When I first got on the school board, there was so much agitation when I was first on the school board because I got there. Number one thing I wanted to talk about was that grading policy. It's just like, come on, I spent all this time, crusading against this thing, so let's talk about it. And that just even introducing the topic for discussion, not even it itself, like what the grading policy should be, just whether or not I was allowed to say anything about it or whether or not I was allowed to introduce anything on it was contentious in and of itself.
So when 2 years before, I think it was 2 years before I was elected, Jackson Miller got elected. Mm-hmm. And Jackson was the first guy who was noticeably younger than everybody else on the council. Mm-hmm. And his big thing was overcrowding. Mm-hmm. And,
in the residence.
All the stuff that happened, and, people want to place blame for that wherever it is. At this point, it doesn't really matter. But we had a lot of discussion around stuff like that because the younger folks, when I was elected, I think I was 38. And the next youngest person, who wasn't Jackson Miller, was probably 60. And so, there's a natural tension there, right? And, when I wanted...
You're pushing a button for me.
Well, but so for instance, one of the things that really irritated me was people would go put signs in the median.
Oh.
And
get rid of those.
And it's against the code.
Yeah.
And it infuriated me. So, and it was one of the things I talked about during my campaign. And so I was out for a run, I don't know, whatever day it was on a weekend, and someone had stuck one in the middle of Grant. So I pulled it out and I brought it to a city council meeting. And during council members' time, I said, I want to know why the city is not pulling these things out. And the staff livid. They were like, all you had to do was call us. And I was like, no, I feel like, it wasn't getting done.
So you got to make a point.
And so you got to make a point. Or if you want to introduce something. So on the council, you have, it rare, I don't know that it happens anymore at all, but there used to be something called walking something onto the agenda. And that was, you're up there, TV cameras on, you're live, there's citizens, the mayor introduces the agenda, and you say, I'd like to add something to the agenda. That's a hanging offense. And Miller did it once, and I did it once. And I kind of regret it. I mean, I got beat up pretty good.
I mean,
for it.
there's a saying that you can make people you can make them see the light, or you can make them feel the heat. It depends on what your goals are for any, if you actually want the signs picked up. They saw the light after that, I bet. Those signs were being picked up, right?
Yeah.
And that they saw the light because they felt the heat of that in that in that moment. But it's I don't know. Age is an interesting. You introduce this topic, so I'm gonna talk. So I'm gonna take the bait. I'm gonna talk about it for a little bit because we have a 7-member school board, and there's only 3 of us that have currently enrolled kids.
And it's all women, isn't it?
And it's all women.
Yeah.
And is 3 and I'm the only one who has who have non-teenagers.
Right.
Kids that are younger than 13-ish.